the president's recent trip to Israel, he stated very emphatically that it is his goal before he leaves office to bring a Palestinian and Jewish state together by the end of this calendar year when he does leave office. In that visit to Israel, he not only expects Israel to accept a Palestinian state, but he's also placing on Israel the burden of dividing Jerusalem, her eternal capital, which fulfills and is fulfilling yet another prophecy, one of which I'm sure some of you, if not most of you, are familiar with, Zechariah chapter 12, verses 1 through 3. The King James renders it, the burden of the word of the Lord for Israel, saith the Lord, which stretcheth forth the heavens, and layeth the foundation of the earth, and formeth the spirit of man within him. Behold, I will make Jerusalem a cup of trembling unto all people round about, when they shall be in the siege both against Judah and against Jerusalem. And in that day I will make Jerusalem a burdensome stone for all people. All that burden themselves with it shall be cut in pieces, though all the people of the earth be gathered together against it. All the people of the earth currently, presently, are gathered together against Jerusalem, exactly as the prophet Zechariah foretold. Here's the fact of the matter. The President of the United States will fail. How can I be so sure? Because according to Daniel 9:27, it's the Antichrist who will confirm this peace agreement and bring Jew and Palestinian together, not President Bush. President Bush is not the Antichrist, as some think he is. Poor guy. He's not the one who's going to do it. Daniel 9:27 says, interestingly, and this is why I believe it's pointing to it, Daniel 9:27 says that the Antichrist will confirm a covenant. In other words, there's already an agreement on the table. The Antichrist just confirms it. In the original language of the Hebrew, it's he will make certain. And it will be a covenant or an agreement for 7 years. And so that is what's going to happen, and that's who's going to make it happen and make certain and confirm that it happens. And it's not the president. So I'm not looking for success on President Bush's part. Now, I went to the White House website and found this very interesting quote from President Bush. This was on January 10th when he was there visiting in Israel, meeting with Mahmoud Abbas, and Ehud Olmert. This is when he was discussing the Palestinian peace process. Take those two words out of your hip pocket because I want to talk about them. Quote, President George W. Bush, I share with these two leaders the vision of two democratic states, Israel and Palestine, living side by side in peace and security. I love this. Here's why. The Apostle Paul, writing to the Thessalonian church in his first letter, recorded chapter 5, verse 3, said this, when people say there is peace and security, then sudden destruction will come upon them as travail comes upon a woman with child, and there will be no escape. In other words, the Apostle Paul, in the context, in his letter, in fact, the context of the letter was to encourage the Thessalonian church who thought they missed the rapture. And what he's saying is, no, the rapture hasn't happened yet. Here's what's going to happen before the rapture happens. They're going to start using two words. What are those two words? Peace and security. I wonder, do world leaders, does the President of the United States look at 1 Thessalonians 5:3 and go, oh, let's use peace and security? Because as soon as they start using those two words, peace and security, then sudden destruction comes. By the way, that's not in the King James, that's the RSV, not the KJV. So, here we are. We're in that day now where all of the world is focused on the burden of Jerusalem, dividing Jerusalem. And they're all doing it under the banner of peace and security so that there can be a Jewish state and a Palestinian state living side by side together in peace and security. And all of these prophecies are now coming together. Bush will fail. The Antichrist will confirm it. And then sudden destruction will come, interesting, as a woman with child. In other words, child labor. The labor pains come in greater intensity and shorter frequency, and that's what we see happening now. Well, in a post-Bush presidency, there will seemingly be a yearning for the Antichrist to finish what all others have attempted heretofore. The world is ripe and ready. I think the nagging, gnawing need is for someone to come on the scene, be he God or the devil, to quote someone in the European Union, and the world will worship him. If someone can, on the heels of yet another U.S. president failing in bringing some semblance of, even if it is a pseudo-peace between Jew and Palestinian, on the heels of yet another failure, the world will bow down to and be in worship of the one who will be able to finally do it. And I think the world is ready for it. And when this Antichrist comes, he confirms this covenant, Daniel 9:27, and then like Daniel 8:25 says, with his policy, destroy many. In other words, and by the way, this is what Islam does. They make peace with their enemy, then they destroy their enemy. Because when they make peace with their enemy, the enemy lets their guard down. And there again is Ezekiel 38, because Ezekiel the prophet says Israel will be dwelling in security. They'll let their wall down, maybe literally, because they've been building a wall to keep the terrorists out from these suicide bombings. So something's going to happen where Israel is going to let their guard down, and I think that there's going to be this peace agreement. Now, here's the thing. We're not going to be here. Listen, I'm not looking for the Antichrist. I'm looking for Jesus Christ. This is what has to happen first. The rapture. Oh, you mean, are you pre-trib? Yes. Why? Because that's what the Bible teaches. Oh, that's just a crutch. Yes! I don't want to be here. Do you? The rapture of the church of Jesus Christ has to happen before the Antichrist can be revealed. That's 2 Thessalonians chapter 2, verses 1 through 12, and we don't have time to get into that today. But here's what I'm thinking. If we're seeing all of these prophecies about to be fulfilled that take place at the beginning of and during the tribulation, and the rapture comes before the tribulation, how close are we? How close are we? Are you ready? Are you ready? If you're not ready, you need to be ready so that his return does not come as a thief in the night. For those of you who are ready, praise God. Like, I love to say this because I know it's encouraging. It's like the Apostle Paul said, encourage each other with these words when he was talking about the rapture. Listen, there is no problem that you have, that you brought to church today, that the rapture won't solve. True? Listen, when the rapture comes, no more rent, no more cockroaches, no more termites, none of that stuff. It's just we're in glory in the twinkling of an eye. Therefore, encourage each other with these words. Be encouraged here today.